What do interviewers think when interviewing me? What questions are they asking themselves about me? Are they really going through a checklist that eventually determines whether I'm going to hell or heaven? If yes, what does that checklist even look like? How do I understand what's truly behind the words when he or she says or asks that question? It must be really nice to break into the interviewer's mind, huh? We would always be saying the right thing and be a step ahead of the game. Well, today I'm giving you something even better than that. Not only will we find out about what those thoughts are, we'll even break into the unconsciousness of interviewers. We'll know exactly how interviewers feel, what they want, and what their impression of you is even before those thoughts are formed. Hi, my name is Kim Tran, a former McKinsey consultant and the founder of the platform MConsultingPrep. It's just good to be back on YouTube again, so let's get right into it. To understand the unconsciousness of interviewers, we'll need to know where that comes from, what creates it, what affects it. Well, if you happen to have taken a psychology course before, you would know that it's the environment that does all the work. Environment creates patterns, or in simple language, templates inside our brain. The combination of billions of different patterns creates our unconsciousness, or in simple language, the personality that we have. For example, if you smile at a stranger on the street and she smiles back, your brain considers this as positive feedback from the environment, and the tiny pattern is formed which says, smiling is good. Next time on the street, you're more likely to smile at people even without you thinking about it. This makes up a tiny portion of your own personality. So when it comes to understanding the mind of the interviewer, it's crucial to comprehend the consulting culture, the intense working and living environment every consultant around the globe interacts with. The good news for you is that the management consulting industry has probably the most well-defined and consistent culture. An analyst sitting in the Hanoi office interacts with just about the same environment as an analyst from the New York office. So let's learn about that very unique culture that alters and shapes every case interviewer's mind together. We'll go into the list of over 10 bullets I put together. I put these in random order to better simulate how you'd encounter the actual environment. For once, please excuse me from being a bit non-MECE here. A number of the concepts below will overlap a little bit, but I would rather be non-MECE than miss out on any good insights. And the last piece of psychology before we go into the content. Most of you will find these insights familiar, or at least have heard of them before. But I'm very sure that many of you have not yet been able to apply all of these into real case performance. Or should I say, many of you haven't fully installed these personalities. Why do I say that? Well, simply because you haven't been exposed to the consulting environment enough. So what I urge you to do right now is to take the following minutes seriously. No matter how cliche it will sound, those messages and pictures need to get into your head. And not only that, you should watch this video over and over again. I highly recommend once every 2 days even. That's the only way you can artificially put yourself into the right environment, which will create consulting traits, which in turn will make you understand the minds of interviewers even better than themselves. Don't worry too much about how to apply specifically these insights into cases. It'll just sound fake. But if you're willing to take the time and surround yourselves in this so-called environment, you will naturally act just like a consultant, and every interviewer will love you even without knowing why. So let's get started. Number 1, responsibility and proactivity. Nowadays, everybody talks about responsibility, but in consulting, this concept has been taken to a whole new level. We call it ownership. You own the work, every little side of it. Good? Yes. Ugly? Yes. Your assigned part of the project is just like your baby. You proactively take care of it. You know everything about it. When it suddenly gets sick, You have to be willing to go beyond your job description to bring it to the doctors. In one of my projects with McKinsey, I was assigned to own the cement business line. Suddenly, one day, the partner called me in and asked, "Hey Kim, you're the cement guy in this project. How far is the closest aggregate mine from here? I'd like to see it." My mind was like, aggregates? How in the world is that something a cement guy needs to know? Well, I almost got thrown out of the window that day. Number 2, no excuse. Other than "I have to take my mom to the hospital last night," there's almost no excuse accepted in the consulting world. Your hotel internet went down? You can always come to the office and spend the night here. The client didn't send you the data they promised? You should have placed a safety time distance for that. Your pet bites your suit? You should have a spare one, or at least we pay you enough to be able to pick up a new one at the store this morning. Your computer crashed in the middle of the night and there's no IT support available? Well, you're smart and you have good people skills. You should have been able to borrow somebody's computer and work remotely based on files and documents gathered from your team members. In short, making excuses is a big no-no in consulting. Number 3, result-oriented and can-do attitude. Consulting people are super result-oriented freaks. McKinsey calls that concept achieving, which I think is a very good word. We come to work every day with the mindset that there's nothing we can't do. Our boss gives us a task and doesn't care much about how we do it or how much resources we take. We just need to pull it off. There's an experience I myself and many consulting people I know share. We look at our tasks at the beginning of the week and thought to ourselves, there's no way I'm going to get this done. It's just impossible. Yes, I'm not afraid of pulling a few all-nighters, but there are too many factors we can't control. At the end of the week, we are all amazed at how we did pull it off. This happens week in and week out. So you can imagine how achievement-oriented consulting people are. They probably have the most intense can-do attitude of any field. Number 4, top-down communication. Your grandpa may speak to you like this. "Hey, honey, the weather has been bad for months with all sorts of rain, snow, and fog. It's finally getting nice now. Honey, it's too good to see the sun today. You've been working so hard. Well, I'm not saying that's bad, but sometimes there's something more to it. Honey, I would love it if you would take some time to go outside and exercise." Guess how that will sound if your grandpa happens to be a consultant. "Hey dude, get out and exercise. It's nice outside and I can see you have not taken care of your body very well lately." Can you see the difference? Consulting communications are short, to the point, action-oriented, and structured. This is also true for written communications and thought processes too. Number 5, MECE. This is so important. We have a separate video only on this topic. See it here. When a consultant hears or reads something non-MECE, it feels exactly like musicians listening to dissonance. It just doesn't feel good. MECE is a standard for structure and breaking down ideas and problems. Later in this video, we'll talk about how structure is important in consulting. Number 6, here it goes, structure. Once upon a time, there were 2 McKinsey partners talking to each other. "How did the interview go?" one partner asks. "She's a nice girl, but I dropped her. Not structured enough," the other one replies. Once upon another time in a BCG office, an associate is having a performance review with his mentor. "Boss, why'd you fire me? You work hard and have a good attitude for most of the time, but you are not a structured person." Once upon a time in another Bain office, a project manager was reviewing a presentation with her teammate. "So how is it?" "Well, you have to redo the whole thing. It's not structured enough." Structure is probably the one word you hear the most in management consulting. But the interesting thing about it is that nobody can exactly define what it means. Sometimes it can mean non-MECE. Other times it means non-logical. In a few situations, it just means unorganized. It also can be used when something is not top-down, too. At the end of the day, structure probably means something consulting worthy. And let's continue to know how to be structured through this amazing YouTube channel. Number 7, deadline. Well, every firm out there wants its employees to meet deadlines. In consulting, there's nothing different from it except that the level of seriousness is sky high. It literally means you are dead if you miss the line. A consulting firm works like a great machine where every part always perfectly delivers on time. This is one of the things I really like about working there. If a deadline is promised by a McKinsey person, no matter who he is, what areas you request his help on, and where he is sitting, you can be very close to 100% certain that the deadline will be met. There was a time a market research analyst in our office didn't even go home at all for a whole night, trying to cover for a sick teammate with a deadline previously committed to me. This strong culture makes the work management a lot easier, but you'll not always get that from the client. It really depends on each project as well as the person you work with. Number 8. Everybody is a manager from day one. Your job title may just say analyst or associate, but you are really a manager from day one. Seriously. If you watch this video about what the heck did I do as a consultant, you'll better understand what I mean here. But here in this context, let me just briefly explain why. Even though you don't necessarily manage another consultant as a new entry, you do have to manage a number of different resources. Your team assistant, your translation team, your market research team, your graphic visual team, etc. You have to manage the content, when to buy a market report, when to call an expert, when to spend time crunching some client data, etc. And last but not least, you have to manage your key stakeholders. In this case, client and your bosses. Satisfying both of them at the same time is not the easiest task in the world. Number 9, client first. Consulting is a service industry like many others out there, a special one, but still a service industry. There's a well-known saying in consulting that the quickest way to get fired is to treat the client disrespectfully. This is true, but it's just 1/3 of the story. Your job is to tell people what to do and still have them not hate you, and in the process keep a good picture of the firm you're representing too. Quite a challenge, huh? So in detail, those 3 equally important aspects of how to treat the client are: you have to make the work flow. That means you need to make client team members collaborate and do certain tasks for you. Number 2, nobody on the client side should be pissed off by you, even if it's the CEO, a department head, an analyst, or even a security guard. Number 3, no matter what, the image of the consulting firm you represent should be stellar. You have to leave nothing but the impression of your firm's professionalism and competency. This is the reason why communication and documents within your consulting firm, even with your boss, can be fairly casual most of the time, but those to the client are always super well calibrated. Number 10, fact-based. There's got to be a reason for every freaking thing in this life. That's the mindset every consultant has installed deeply. You make an observation, be ready to explain your idea. You state a conclusion, be ready to show your supporting data. You ask a question, be ready to talk about how that question would help move the project or work stream forward. Too much theory? Let's get a little more interactive here. Suppose I make a statement that people subscribe to MConsultingPrep have a better chance to get an offer than those who don't. What kind of data would I need to include in my disposal? Please comment below. Number 11, 80-20 and time management. I know this is getting a little cliche, but this is indeed very important in consulting. In school, you usually can improve your performance by increasing the input, aka studying time. But in consulting, everybody is already maxed out and the workload always seems to be overwhelming. So time and resource management is a vital skill that separates great performers from bad ones. Interestingly, this is even more important than intellectual capability. And when it comes to time and resource management, 80-20 is one of your best friends. I don't think I need to go any further here because you probably have heard about this a million times already. Number 12, key takeaways and key message. We said earlier that in the consulting world, everything has to have a reason. Now let me add something parallel to it. Everything has to have a key takeaway, a key message, or in other words, a key so what. You tell a story? So what? You present a data analysis? What's the key takeaway? You draw a slide? What's the key message? If these questions can be automatically formed and answered on your mind, that's when you are very similar to a consultant in this aspect. Number 13, what do I think? Now consider these two following questions. Which one would you choose to ask your boss? Question 1. Hello, boss. How do I break down this problem? Question 2. Hello, boss. I think this problem can be broken down into internal and external. Does this sound like a sound approach to you? Easy, huh? Everybody knows question 2 is way better. We never want to ask people anything out of the blue. We have to think on our feet first, and leadership is there to shed some light onto our already well thought out opinion. When put this way, it sounds obvious, but in real life and in the case interview environment, it's a whole different thing. You'll see tons of examples of this in our end-to-end program. Number 14, align early. This is also a working habit every consultant has deeply installed. Nobody wants to spend nights building something the team doesn't need. Spending a little time from the beginning to align the overall direction can potentially save a lot of time and trouble later. As consultants, we do this in multiple contexts, multiple tasks, multiple scales, and with multiple parties. From small tasks on a particular morning to even the whole project planning with the client, etc. Number 15, last but not least, next step. The consulting culture is so action-oriented. No meeting, no phone call, or even no random catch-ups can be closed without everybody explicitly clear on what to do next. Let's practice this. So you, my dear future consultant, what are the next steps following this video? Of course, when it comes to being explicit about the next steps, every party has to be clear. In this situation, it means I'm asking you to recap next steps for both me and you. Please pause the video and comment below. If you don't do this, you'll just show me and everybody in the world that you're not ready and willing to take upon yourselves a very good consulting habit, which means you're not really ready to be a consultant, and that's not you, right? Alrighty, thank you for making it to the end, and let me stress again, these ideas sound simple, you'll all understand them, but to fully install these mindsets into your head is a whole different story. Consultants spend years working intensively under this environment. That's thousands of hours compared to you just spending over 10 minutes watching this video. The gap is big, and there's no reason why you shouldn't try your best to close that gap as much as possible. So, subscribe to our channel and bookmark this video link. Go back to it. Watch it over and over again, even after you think you know this stuff super well, because knowing and possessing are very different. At Management Consulting Prep, we believe everybody can make it to consulting. If you watch this video often, are you a believer?